Food for Life is a programme of Soil Association Scotland, which is a UK-wide food and farming charity. And in Scotland, we're broadly working to make good food the easy choice for everybody. And our kind of definition of good food is that it's food that is good for your health, good for the planet, good for the environment, and it's good for the economy. So it's doing all of those three things. And we want to see the public sector and institutions, organisations across Scotland using food in a way to engage people, to help them lead healthier, more fulfilling lives, but also in a way that has a positive impact on the environment, and that helps support the producers who kind of live and work in Scotland who are actually growing and rearing our food. And yeah, we see that as a kind of a holistic picture that's impacts on each other. So something that's good for your health and good for the environment and good for the economy is kind of what we want to see happening, working with lots of different organisations across a life course of a person. So we work everywhere from nurseries to care homes, and everywhere that you might live your life in between that, and so that you're actually eating nutritious, healthy food all the way along your life course, and at every point that you might interact with food, you're also having a positive impact on the environment and the local economy as well. So Food for Life is working with care homes across Scotland, and particularly in Edinburgh on a pilot project called Better Care, which is essentially looking at using food as a means of improving care and of doing things slightly differently in a care setting, tackling some of the big societal problems that we're facing today in terms of pressures on the NHS, malnutrition, obesity, these kind of two diverse ends of the health spectrum, but then also loneliness and isolation that we're seeing more and more with the kind of ageing population. And use food as something that everybody can engage with. It's something that means something to everybody, and we see a lot of success with using different activities in care homes and in care settings to engage with residents, to help them live a more sort of fulfilling and kind of increase the well-being that they in their lives. Things like using food therapeutically for food growing. We see some care homes rearing chickens and the residents being really involved in that. We've been supporting an intergenerational project as well with a care home and a local school, which has been really positive. There's been lots of really nice associated kind of knowledge sharing and experiences. A lot of what we do is in promoting good food experiences as well as good food that's actually on the plate, so that you're getting that healthy and nutritious food on the plate, but you're also enjoying it, and you can interact with it, have those social experiences, and we value that all the way through our lives, and actually there's no reason that should stop being a factor in a care setting or when you're an older person, and actually bringing the pupils into the care home and the residents down to the school as well, where that's possible, has been really beneficial. Had sort of anecdotal feedback of the where that's been facilitated, of the residents really having a kind of a new lease of life and actually feeling a bit more of a purpose, that they're able to kind of help support this younger generation. And there's also been lots of really nice smaller projects around reminiscence as well, and using food as a tool for kind of dementia related activities and things like that. Within the intergenerational project that I just mentioned, one of the projects, the pupils were helping create a cookbook, and the residents were kind of providing the stories and the recipes that went along with that from their kind of experience and knowledge from when they were younger. Yeah, so Food for Life is very much about the kind of holistic nature of food, and it not just being about the food that's on the plates in terms of the nutritional quality, that's obviously incredibly important, but also the impact it can have on the people or the places that are providing that food. From an environmental perspective, it really helps in terms of reducing food miles and food wastage, both of which are quite important in terms of climate change mitigation. And actually, there's no reason why any public sector or any organisation doesn't have a role to play in that, whether you're, as I said, working, whether you're across the life course, whether you're a nursery, a workplace, a care home, any kind of setting can actually help in terms of mitigating their impact on the environment, and sourcing food locally is just one way that you can do that. It's also really important in terms of supporting the Scottish economy, and from a care home perspective or a care setting, especially when you're working with older people, they might have had a lot more links to farmers or to the countryside than they do currently, and it can be a really nice way of bringing that back to them and having that engagement, sort of bringing the farm to the care home in a way. And there's lots of other associated activities if you're doing the kind of local procurement and local sourcing, that you can bring in suppliers, farmers, people to have these kind of conversations in a care home as well, and have that link. It's also something which, a lot of the care home residents as well might have family members or links into the community that they want to maintain, or that the care home wants to kind of create. And food, as I said, a lot of it for us is about these experiences, and local food and sourcing kind of locally is a really great way of integrating that. And actually, to take it one step further, I suppose the most local that you could get is food grown in a care home setting itself as well. So we do try and that would be something which we would encourage and facilitate, partly because of, again, you've got almost no food miles in that instance, and the impact on the environment of kind of having that soil to plate journey so small is really low. But equally as important, if not more important, the experience side of it, again, in terms of how residents can interact with that, the taste in terms of the freshness and the novelty, and actually, have it, obviously it's not necessarily going to be appropriate to every resident, but having some kind of engagement with the practical element of food growing as well. We've also had, we also see chickens sometimes in care homes as well, partly again from that, sort of therapeutic angle, but also I believe the eggs are usually delicious as well. Well, one specific thing that Food for Life can support any organisation across Scotland, but particularly applicable to care homes, is to work through a certification scheme that we run, which is called Food for Life Served Here, and it really provides a framework for caterers in any setting, but for care home caterers to work through, to make changes, to incorporate a lot of the things that we would used to define good food, in terms of looking at the health aspects of what's on the plate, the environmentally friendly sourcing, and also championing the Scottish producers. And having that certification gives a tool for you to work through. So there's different standards that we can support caterers to work towards, and as well as kind of giving you that framework, it also gives a huge boost to morale. It helps to develop staff skills and enthusiasm, and it's something that care homes can use to engage all kind of people that live and work in the setting so that's something which we can support care homes to achieve. Good food has the power to kind of transform lives, and I think in a care home setting that's really, really important. When you get to the stage of living in a care home, the health and well-being benefits associated with interacting with food are really, really positive. Food is obviously vital for the nutritional benefits, but it's so much more than that, and it can be used to engage or, you know, from across the soil to plate journey, from how you grow food in, you know, whether you have a polytunnel or an orchard, or whether you just grow some herbs in the kind of care home garden. Yeah, so some examples of things that have worked really well in terms of engaging residents and getting them out and about, out into the gardens, into having a slightly more active lifestyle is using the outdoor space that you have available to grow food on whatever scale is appropriate for your care home. We've had some who have put in a polytunnel, and they have recruited volunteer gardeners to come and help the residents to grow their own vegetables, and that's been fed back into the kitchen. And we see other examples where the orchard is something which the residents have been involved in developing, and they can just come out into the garden, have a kind of an explore, and kind of use that space in a more active way than just kind of admiring it from their kind of sofa. And I think getting together to do that is really nice as well. A lot of I think it was a lot of people say, I think 2 in 5 older people say that their main source of company is the television. And I mean, that might not exactly be the case in care homes where you're with a lot of people, but isolation and loneliness is something which is really prevalent across society. And getting outside, using the care home facilities to the best of your ability through food is really powerful. Well, Better Care is Edinburgh, and the programme of work that we're piloting in Edinburgh has been funded by the Big Lottery, and the idea is that we're collecting as much evidence as possible to show and to find ways of how to use food to improve care, and to evidence that so it can be passed on to kind of the wider sector. But the Food for Life served here is a kind of open to anyone in the care sector, in any kind of catering sector across Scotland, and it just helps to give that kind of a framework to use food to help transform the way people live their lives, but also to impact positively on the environment and on the economy. And in the current with the current political ambitions around becoming a good food nation, so the Scottish Government wants Scotland to be a good food nation, and the Food for Life Served Here award is enabling people to be part of that. It gives you the tools to move towards this vision of a good food nation. And that's what we want to see across the public sector. We want to see the public sector leading by example. Care homes, hospitals, schools should all be beacons of good food and of using the kind of health, environment and economy angles all together.